In 2025, the world became more connected than ever, and yet more haunted than ever before. Thousands of unexplained videos surfaced online. Shadows moving without a source, screams echoing through live streams, entire homes caught flickering with impossible lights. These aren't old ghost tales passed down through generations. They're real incidents, recorded and investigated in our time. Tonight, we'll look at 4 true paranormal stories from 2025 that investigators, police, and even AI surveillance systems still can't explain. But be warned, these aren't the kind of stories you forget when the video ends, because each one left behind something. A sound, a shadow, or a missing person that still hasn't returned. Let's begin. The Vanishing Driver, Texas, 2025. It was February 12, 2025. A cold, empty night along Route 287 in northern Texas. Truck driver Raymond Carter, age 46, was hauling his last shipment before sunrise. He'd been driving this route for 12 years, and he always said the same thing about it. There's nothing out here but road, stars, and silence. But that night, the silence broke. At 2:13 a.m., Raymond's dashcam captured something strange. The footage shows an empty highway. Then, suddenly, a faint figure standing right in the middle of the lane. A woman, pale, barefoot, wearing what looked like a torn hospital gown, her hair covering most of her face. Raymond hit the brakes and swerved. The truck skidded to the side, tires screaming. He grabbed his radio and called dispatch, breath heavy. Control. I think there's someone out here, middle of the road. But when he stepped out of the truck, there was no one. The road was completely empty, just desert wind and darkness stretching miles in both directions. Raymond left the engine running and walked ahead with his flashlight. The dashcam kept recording, showing him disappear briefly into the shadows. Then the footage gets strange. For 30 seconds, the truck door swings shut on its own. The engine idles. The radio hisses. Then a soft sound, footsteps circling the truck. Slow, heavy, like someone dragging their feet. Finally, a whisper cuts through the static, so faint it's almost missed. You shouldn't have stopped. The next morning, a passing driver found Raymond's truck still running by the roadside. The door was open. The driver's seat was empty. Raymond Carter was gone. When police arrived, they checked the dashcam. Everything was there exactly as the internet later saw it. Investigators scoured miles of desert. No footprints, no tracks, no body. Just the faint echo of that whispered warning caught on tape. A week later, another driver reported seeing the same woman, standing motionless near a service station 50 miles away. Her face still hidden, gown fluttering in the cold wind. But before the police arrived, she vanished again. Locals now call that stretch of Route 287 the line of silence. Truckers avoid it at night. Dispatchers refuse to answer radio calls from that area. And yet, the cameras keep catching her. A flicker of white in the dark, standing in the middle of the road, waiting for the next driver to stop. Because in 2025, not everyone who hit the brakes ever started driving again. The live stream that never ended soul. It was a quiet April evening in 2025. 23-year-old streamer Yuri Park was live on her channel in Seoul, South Korea, chatting casually with her viewers about life, food, and weekend plans. She'd been streaming for almost 3 years, always cheerful, always surrounded by light and noise. But that night, something felt off from the very beginning. About 30 minutes into the stream, the lights behind her flickered. Once, then again. She laughed it off. Ugh, Seoul power outages again, she joked, brushing her hair aside. But her viewers noticed something she didn't. In the dim reflection of her monitor, a faint shape seemed to move behind her. Just for a split second. The chat exploded. Who's that behind you? Someone's in your room. Look to your left. Yuri turned, smiled nervously and said, "Guys, stop trolling me." But the expression in her eyes told a different story. The knocking started next. 3 sharp taps, then silence. She stood up, walked to her apartment door, and opened it. The hallway light was off. No one was there. When she came back, she said quietly. "I think someone's playing a prank." That's when the audio distortion began. A deep, low hum cut through the stream, not from her mic, not from the game. It was like something was breathing through the speakers. Her viewers heard it too. "Is that an earthquake? Check your mic." But Yuri's eyes were fixed on something off camera. Her breathing quickened. Her lips moved slightly, whispering to herself. Then, she looked straight at the lens, tears forming in her eyes, and whispered, "It's trying to get in through the walls." The screen froze for 3 seconds, then static. Her stream stayed live for 8 more hours. Just the sound of faint electrical buzzing and an occasional thump, like someone pacing slowly across the floor. When police arrived the next morning, her door was still locked. From the inside, her camera and lights were still on. But Yuri was gone. No signs of forced entry. No blood. Just the faint imprint of 2 handprints on the inside of her wall, pressed into the plaster as if someone or something had tried to come through. The live stream file was recovered, but most of the footage was corrupted. The few minutes that remain still circulate online. Audio engineers who've examined the clip claim there's a second voice whispering over Yuri's. A low, distorted tone repeating the same phrase. "Don't look at me." Her apartment has been empty since that night. Neighbors say they still hear knocking from inside at 2 a.m. Always 3 times. Always followed by silence. The house that called back. Manchester. In March 2025, a young couple, Daniel and Holly Reeves, moved into a 2-story Victorian house on the outskirts of Manchester. It wasn't perfect. The walls were cracked, the wiring was old, and the basement smelled of damp earth. But the price was too good to ignore. "This place just needs love," Holly said with a smile. For a few weeks, everything seemed fine. They spent their evenings painting, playing music, and making plans. Until one rainy night, Holly decided to clean out the basement. That's when she found it. A dusty rotary phone sitting on a shelf, half buried under old newspapers. It wasn't plugged in, yet the cord still trailed into the wall. The number dial was rusted, but when she turned it, it clicked softly, like it was still alive. Daniel came down and laughed. "We should hook it up," he said jokingly. "Maybe it still works." As a joke, he dialed their own house number. The phone rang upstairs. They froze. Holly looked at him wide-eyed. "That's impossible. We haven't even connected this thing." Daniel picked up the basement receiver again, and this time someone answered. A faint crackling sound, like static from an old TV. Then a whisper, soft, familiar. It was Holly's voice. "Get out before he wakes up." She dropped the phone immediately, clattered against the concrete floor. Daniel's face went pale. That sounded exactly like you." They rushed upstairs, but the living room phone was still ringing. When Daniel picked it up, he heard nothing but slow, rhythmic breathing. Then the line went dead. That night, neither of them slept. The house felt colder than usual, as if the walls were absorbing the heat. At around 3 a.m., the basement door creaked open on its own. Holly swore she heard the faint sound of the rotary phone spinning again, click by click. By morning, they'd made up their minds. They were leaving. But before they packed, Daniel went down to the basement one last time, just to prove it was all in their heads. He found the phone off the hook, receiver swinging gently. He raised it to his ear. A whisper came through immediately. "You're too late." The line went dead again. 2 days later, the Reeves moved out, leaving everything behind, including the phone. When the new owners moved in, they found it still there on the floor, receiver lifted. Curious, they contacted the phone company to remove the line. The technician's report said something strange. The basement line had been disconnected since 1992. And yet, when he tested it with his equipment, the phone was still carrying a faint electrical current, as if something on the other side refused to hang up. The Forest Recording, Nordmarka, Norway. June 2025. A group of 3 friends, Mikkel, Sarah, and Jonas, were hiking through the dense forests of Nordmarka, just outside Oslo, Norway. It was a clear summer evening. The sun barely dipped below the horizon, leaving a strange, endless twilight hanging over the trees. They weren't thrill seekers or ghost hunters, just nature lovers looking for peace and quiet. But that night, the forest gave them something else. Around 6 p.m., while setting up camp near an abandoned ranger hut, Mikkel spotted something tied to a birch tree. It was an old cassette recorder, the kind used in the 1980s, still running, a red light blinking. A strip of tape looped endlessly inside. He pressed stop, then play. At first, all they heard was wind and distant birds. Then came the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate crunching leaves. After that, a deep, guttural noise, almost like an animal growling far away. Sarah laughed uneasily. Maybe a bear? But Jonas shook his head. There are no bears in this part of Nordmarka. That night, the three sat around the fire, the tape recorder lying between them. The forest was quiet, too quiet. Even the crickets had stopped. Then Mikkel said softly, "Listen." From somewhere deep in the woods came the same guttural sound, the one from the tape. Low, vibrating, getting closer. He grabbed a flashlight and aimed it toward the trees. Nothing, just branches moving in the wind. But the sound was still there, circling the campsite. The recorder switched on by itself. The red light blinked again. The tape whirred. Sarah whispered, "Did you touch it?" Mikkel shook his head. The recorder began playing, but now, instead of forest sounds, they heard their own voices. The conversation from just 5 minutes earlier. Their laughter, their words. Then a new voice, deep, calm, whispering in Norwegian. "Thank you for finding me." The fire died down as if the air had been sucked out of the clearing. Jonas grabbed the recorder and yanked out the tape, but the voice continued for several seconds, even after the device was unplugged. Panic set in. They packed their gear and fled through the dark. By morning, they reached the main road, terrified but alive. A week later, police found their campsite abandoned. Everything still there, the bags, the food, the fire pit. On the ground lay the cassette recorder, tape neatly rewound, and a fresh note written in Norwegian. "You forgot to listen to the end." When investigators played the tape, it contained 9 minutes of silence, and one final second of breathing, followed by Mikkel's voice whispering, "It's right behind you." Forensics confirmed something impossible. That final whisper was recorded 3 days after the hikers were last seen. To this day, the Nordmarka police deny ever retrieving that recorder. But hikers still say that on quiet summer nights, if you stop and listen, you can hear the faint click of a tape starting to play again. These are just 4 of hundreds of strange incidents from 2025, each verified by police reports, social media footage, and the survivors who wish they hadn't seen what they saw. Whether it's technology capturing what the human eye can't, or something using our technology to reach us, no one truly knows. But if these stories prove anything, it's that the line between the living and the dead has never been thinner. And as long as cameras keep rolling, the haunting will never stop.